Hello Battletech fans, this is Travis coming back with another card building episode for my project where I have been building custom cards for the old Battletech customizable card game, kind of giving some attention to units that may have been overlooked or maybe can prevent it from getting into the game because of legal issues, or maybe just didn't quite get a good representation in that original card game. But for today's episode, we're going to be focusing on the Mist Lynx, and then I'll kind of touch on some other ones as well. But let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so first up, as always, we're starting with the arts, all right? And so this is a great piece, again, by Spooky777, aka FLORIAN MELLIES, or maybe it should be the other way around. But I've actually found this quite a while ago. It's beautiful. I love the colors in this piece, and I was actually able to pull 3 different mechs out of this. So obviously we have the Locust on the left. Right there in the center, you have a Koshi Prime, and then all the way on the right, we have a Mist Lynx, aka a Koshi. So, and then there's also some elementals there. I might kind of pull those out and do something with them later. But for this episode, we're going to be focusing on that Koshi slash Mist Lynx up there in the corner. So let's go ahead and pull up the stats in Solaris Skunkworks. This is a great program. If you haven't found this already, just look up Solaris Skunkworks. It's Skunk Works with a WERKS. And then they have tons of readouts. You can kind of print out your custom stat sheets and kind of check out all the variants. So here we have it. All right, so we have a 7-11-6. All right, so that's going to bump it into the fast category for the mech. 25 tons, so 2.5 armor, 10 double heat sinks, so 20 heat dissipation. If we hop on over to that armor section, we got 3.5 tons of ferrofibrous, so that's going to be 4.2 tons represented in the when we're calculating out what to put on this guy. The armor is at 10 on the center torso, so that's going to justify a 1 armor, and then the rest will go into the internal structure. And then we can hop on over to that equipment to kind of see what we're working with. And we have the LRM-10, which will give us a missile 1, that Streak SRM-4, which will probably give us an attack of 1, and then the machine guns, which will give us the AP, the anti-personnel of 1 as well. And then we'll throw in that active probe, and then we can see that clan case. And so we'll make sure that we designate the case when we are statting out this mech. And next, let's dive into my spreadsheet that I've been using to kind of just keep track of all this. And so we have that 2.5 and that 4.2 totaled out for 6.7. Now the total armor commitment on that, or the total protection, is going to be half of that rounded up. And so that's going to be 3 total. So that's going to be 1 into the armor, 2 into the internal structure. We have the weapons outlined here, and then we can kind of bring that over. We're going to have that missile 1. For that Streak SRM-4, we're assuming that on average 7 missiles are going to hit with that, if I'm doing my math correctly. So that'll justify a attack value of 1 because we give 1 for every 7 multiple. And then the heat is well below that heat, that 20 heat dissipation. All right, and so that's actually going to come into play a little bit in a moment, and I'll kind of we'll highlight that when it happens. All right, and here is the card. All right, so I've go ahead and plugged everything in just to kind of save us time, and we can kind of see that missile 1 is in there. We got the attack 1. I actually need to flip this so that we have an armor of 1 in there, because as I've talked about in previous videos, basically for every multiple of 10 that's in that center torso, I use that to say how much armor it's going to have. So if it's a multiple of 3, it would be 3. This one is, since it's at 10, and we're going to go ahead and give it 1. Now the original card has 0.3, and we'll do a quick comparison of the original card in a moment, but let's finish kind of going through what we came up with here. And so I talked about kind of where that heat would come into play later, and so I have added this kind of custom ability for my cards called the Cool Jump. Basically what that does, it allows you to get that -1 or that +1 initiative without the -1 to attack. All right, and this is just for some mechs whose heat dissipation is good enough that they could fire all of their weapons and jump without having any risk of overheating. All right, and so that's represented there. And then we have the AP1, the Beagle Octa Pro. We make sure that we got that speed of fast. Omnimecha is general clan, so this is going to be available to all clans. And then we got all the weapons here. Now this is a fun feature that I just recently added in the last week to my custom cards, and I've been slowly kind of going back and adding it into ones that I had already built. But I started adding these little faction, or not faction, but these era icons. And essentially this is to kind of help make the game a little bit more thematic, and so players can, when they're going into it, They can hop in and say, all right, we're going to play Succession Wars era, or we're going to play Clan Invasion era, or Jihad era, or Civil War era, and then they'll be limited in terms of the cards that they can use for that based on cards that have that era icon highlighted. All right, and this is one way to also make your kind of older variants, especially those Succession War variants, still viable. So clearly you're not going to have kind of a 3050 era mech set aside while you're using a Succession Wars era mech, because that 3050 mech is going to generally be superior to it, and that is the case for the most part in the game. The 9S Zeus is better than the 6S Zeus, the Centurion D is better than the Centurion A, and so this is kind of a way, if we add all those icons on, players can go in and say, hey, I want a game in Succession Wars, and then all of a sudden that Zeus 6S and that Centurion A become a lot more viable and enjoyable to kind of play with, because both characters are going to have that limitation. And so I just pulled these era icons off of kind of what Catalyst has been put out, and then kind of figured out kind of how to plug it in, fill up that little space that's kind of been gone, unused and absent. And so for the Mist Lynx, we went ahead and highlighted the Clan Invasion, the Civil War, and the Jihad eras. And the Mist Lynx is available in the Dark Ages, but I didn't highlight that because down here for the OmniMech clan, this is available to all of the clans, but by the time we get to the Dark Age era, that it is not available to all the clans. All right, there's just some that have it. And so basically I would imagine if I was making this game, a later expansion would come out, and the Mist Lynx that was available in that Dark Age era would then have restrictions in terms of what clans that it could be used for. But yeah, so that's fun. I'm super excited to kind of incorporate this kind of into the cards and into the game moving forward. But then we can also kind of look up at the costing. And so I went ahead and costed this at 1. We have that munitions. Again, usually I do 1 munitions for every type of ammunition, and this has the LRM, the SRM, and the machine gun. And so that's essentially kind of paying for that missile, for the AP, and just that 1 extra for the main attack. And then the assembly, which I usually use for almost all the clan mechs, usually I only take assembly out for mechs that are either truly ubiquitous, very easy to build, like a Wasp or a Locust, or they're simply not in construction anymore. Something like a Succession Wars era Grasshopper would have no A because it's not getting built. It's just what is out there is what is available. And at the bottom, making sure that we credit the artist here. So that's FLORIAN's artwork, and we got the name up top. But let's go ahead and compare this to the original release of the Mist Lynx, which was the Koshi. In the original game, they used the Inner Sphere names rather than the clan names. I've kind of flip-flopped that. That's another way to kind of help distinguish my cards from the originals, so that there's no kind of risk of copyright infringement. But so looking at that Koshi, we have the 2 total attack, and so I split mine up into the missile and to the primary, just to make it more thematic and representative of the actual unit. You'll see in the weapons that they have in that unit, they do not have any machine guns, and so therefore it also doesn't show any AP in this mech. It doesn't have any big octa probe. It does have that jump. Theirs is a standard jump. There was no such thing as cool jump in the original game, and so a little bit different there. They have this at a 0-3. I put that at a 1-2 because of that center torso armor protection. There's other mechs, things like the Wasp, that don't. I think they have like 8 or 9 center torso protection. That would be more of the 0-3. I think maybe even the Flea might be the least armored one, or something along those lines, that has 0-2, or it may actually be a clan mech. It may be the Dasher or the Fire Moth that has 0-2. I know one of the mechs does, but for the most part, the least you're going to get is that 0-3. And then the costing, basically it's that 1A, and we have the 1A on mine, but I added the M, to justify the missile, and the T to justify the Beagle active probe. All right, and so some similarities, certainly a lot more enhancements and differences between my version and the original. But there you have it. That is my version of the Mist Lynx Prime for the customizable card game, kind of printed out. I'll eventually be putting out these in kind of a printable quality so that people can kind of get them and play with them at home. I also have a lot more of these cards that I've been sharing on my Patreon, so if you're not a supporter there and you would like to kind of help support the channel, definitely consider finding Renegade HBG on Patreon, and you'll get access to some more cards like this as benefits for being a supporter on that platform. But otherwise, I hope you've been enjoying these. Other ways you can support the channel, definitely share these for anybody else that you think might be interested. Give a comment down below to interact. Let me know what you think about this card. Definitely let me know what other cards that you would like to see. I will eventually get to that night gear, especially if people down below are saying that they really want to see it. We will be coming out with that Locust episode with a couple different pieces of art, a couple different cards and variants in the future. But in the meantime, definitely check out the other content on the channel. Lots of amazing interviews, including my most recent one with Michael Stackpole. And I have another one actually coming up this afternoon, another director's commentary with DC Bruins to follow up on my previous one where we talked about Freehead, a Mechwarrior film. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to get connected to that content and keep following more fun videos and celebrating the Battletech universe. Thanks guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.